What's going on, guys? This is Miyasen and welcome to the OCG Metagame Breakdown number 9 and 10, covering 94 top-performing decks from 15 tournaments in China, Japan, Hong Kong, South Korea, etc. During the span of approximately 1 week and a half-ish, kind of, not really. But whatever, before this video starts, make sure you like and subscribe. Check me out on Twitch and Instagram. Again, huge shout-outs to Akira every single time providing with these insane articles. And as you can see in the pizza, Tier Elements is basically 50%. However, one thing that I do want to mention is that the decks that are winning, again, I keep repeating that, are all Ishizu Tier Elements except for like one Splight. So, in other words, it has a topping rate of approximately 40-50%, but the win rate of tournaments is absurd. Like, everything is always Ishizu Tier Elements in first place, Ishizu Tier Elements, and even in those big tournaments and like the really deep in Top Cut, it's also only Ishizu Tier Elements. I saw a comment from an OCG player, I think it was Junjun from the Philippines, so shoutouts to you. Actually mentioned that the deck was very comparable to like Prime Dragon Ruler, and Splight was basically comparable to Spellbook, because their version of Jiaogin was like the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword and stuff like that, so you couldn't really special summon much, and Tier Elements in terms of like power level is absurd. So these two decks are clearly the best, and then the other decks are all kind of competing for third, but it never really stabilizes to something very specific, and that's really what intrigues me about the OCG metagame, because even though they're not really getting much new product, things change a lot. Like, we used to see Exorcister at the third spot, but now Exorcister is basically just tied with everything else, like Virtual World and stuff like that. This is ridiculous, because literally all the other breakdowns, it was always so much better. Yeah, here it was already 4 Exorcisters, so top 5 best decks, but unfortunately, things change literally every week. And sometimes people can get bored of the deck, so they might want to play something else, or something, maybe Exorcister might actually just not really have the surprise factor anymore. It doesn't really have a great Splight matchup, and even though it technically has a good Tier Elements matchup, if you draw Shifter and stuff like that, you still need to, you know, be skillful at Yugi Mons and draw those good cards. Anyways, so that is no surprise to all of us. Splight being at 21.3%. This is still a tier 1 representation, by the way. Very, very, very good. So don't go thinking that this deck is garbage, because it is not. Like, the Splight Sprint, the Link 2 monster that Foolish Burials is insane. And Dragon Buster Destruction Sword is still no joke, and the deck can actually play around Regeki now with IP Masquerena summoning the new Underworld whatever Link 2 monster, and since it's summoned off of Masquerena, it can be destroyed by card effects, and it can tribute itself to protect all of your other monsters from being destroyed by card effects. So Regeki is no longer an answer to the to the board. So yeah, Lawn Mowing, Tier Elements, Thunder Dragon, Punk Bisted should basically kind of be there, but not really, because it's playing so many other cards. And then we've got Bisted, so Bisted branded, the Tier Elements branded Bisted, Dragon Maid branded Bisted, Bisted Dragon Link. I know I repeat myself every single time, but I'm gonna keep saying this over and over and over again. The Bisted engine is overpowered, it's definitely tier 1. The Bisted cards, just overall, like the Magnamut and the other one, they're going to see play in people's main deck, even in the TCG, because they're already seeing play in the OCG. And Bisted Dragon Link is a very dangerous deck, and in the TCG, it might be even better than it is in the OCG, because for some reason, people have never really given up on Dragon Link. It doesn't have to be afraid of Maxi, because Maxi doesn't exist over here, whereas in the TCG, combo decks are a little less appealing, I want to say. And then Flunderies, obviously this deck doesn't lose to Maxi, so that's the kind of appeal for it, and it's just a really frustrating deck. It has Shifter, it can sack you, whatever. Rika, this is also very good in the TCG. Ishizu Rika is looking very interesting, wow. And the other one is Sanavalon Rika. Either way, this is really cool. So in the TCG, we've seen Sanavalon Rika actually win the European Championship with Marcus Patel. Again, huge congrats to you, very well done, 1801. So yeah, this deck is not something that you should sleep on. Adamantipator, Danger, Dark World, Exorcister, Satrila. This is not much of a pure deck. It's just going to be like one card. The Fenrir that you splash, it's basically a Pancratops, but it's good going first, unlike Pancratops. Ishizu Naturia, this is also very cute because you mill the trap card, which is, it has a non-once per turn effect to search a Naturia monster from your deck to your hand, and the Ishizu cards keep looping the cards over and over again, so you can literally search like your whole deck in one turn. And then Runic, this is much better in the TCG right now because of Mystic Mine, whereas in the OCG Mystic Mine is banned, so definitely have to be aware of the difference. Splight Neftis FTK, this is way too obscure. Splight Tri-Brigade. Alright, this used to be a little better, so a little disappointing now. Tri-Brigade Lyrillus, this also used to be much better, and Virtual World, this is just inconsistent. So that's the issue. Alright, Tearlaments, this is very, very interesting. This guy actually freaking killed it, man. He thought about a play that, obviously it's the kind of thing that if I was put in that position, I might have thought about it, but the fact that he managed to execute it under like this much pressure was really nice. So he had Zeus and he had Sulik and Crime, so the continuous trap and the counter trap card, and he had a Kid Kalos. All of his Kid Kalos were banished because of Ghost Reaper, so he Zeused himself to send his own Salik and Crime to the grave to search for Shirin from the deck to the hand, and recycle back Kid Kalos from the banish to the extra deck to kind of play around the Ghost Reaper that way. So that's really freaking cool. And then he was able to summon the Shirin. He was not able to mill the Alphinus or Meru because he already had a Shirin in hand, so that is how you can play around Impermanent stuff like that. So that's very unfortunate because the top 3 males were basically useless. And then he summoned Kid Kalos, he searched the trap card because he shuffled it back with Keldo, which is something that I kind of disagree with because it decreases the likelihood of you milling Tearlaments monsters because you put back non-Tearlaments back in your deck, such as the Bisted Magnamut, so that is something that you should have avoided doing, and maybe the real play was just get as many Tearlaments. It's really tricky because obviously there is like a huge context behind it, so go check out the tournament stream. But I was gonna say tournament report. This is the tournament report, kind of. But yeah, also the field spell with the Kid Kalos to destroy himself, I think, or maybe sending himself. He milled 8 cards and still didn't mill Huffiness and Meru, so that was absolutely freaking absolutely awful. Yeah, literally the worst case scenario, not milling a single Tearlaments and like freaking 11 cards or something. So yeah, it must not be nice. Well, actually, it was the 3 from Shirin and then 5 from Kid Kalos. But yeah, still very unfortunate. So yeah, that is the alternate play that he probably should have went for. But at the same time, maybe that was not... the thing is, because even if you're not trying to search the continuous trap with Kid Kalos, you can still search it with the continuous spell when it's sent to the grave. So that's the reason why I really suggested this move, because obviously, in that context where you have to make a lot of interruptions, even after breaking a board, you can still search your trap cards in other ways. And another way to search your trap cards, even outside of Kid Kalos and milling the continuous spell with RNG, would be to summon the Kaleido Heart, the big one, and then destroying yourself with the Perlarino, the field spell. And then Kaleido Heart comes back, you foolish the continuous spell, which is Scream, that's the name, and then you search for Sulik or Crime or whatever. And because of the fact that he had an Ishizu monster in the grave, he could have shuffled back the Sulik at that point, and that would have been something that might have helped him out a little bit more because he would have mailed more cards. So maybe that was the correct move. He also would have deck thinned by not having the useless monsters in his deck. But at the end of the day, RNG is still RNG. If it's not your day, it's not your day. Anyways, for this deck list, there's nothing super extraordinary outside of the fact that Agido is just a one-off for some reason. And also, again, no Exchange of the Spirit, no Gravekeeper's Trap, and only one trap is always played, and it's always Salik. Meta Noise is trash. Yeah, Meta Noise is trash. It's also a trap, but it's a trap to play. You shouldn't play it. The reason why people do not play Call by the Grave in the main deck anymore is because the Ishizu cards will simply just be chained to Call by the Grave to shuffle back whichever card that you're trying to target. So it will never really resolve. So yeah, Call by the Grave is garbage in the main deck. Now I finally understand. Thank you guys for clarifying me this. But yeah, one continuous spell, this card is broken. Even when you're not foolishing it, it's still really nice because it makes you mail 3 cards every time I think a monster is summoned. I forgot, but yeah, it's on your own turn and on your opponent's turn once per turn. And yeah, triple tactic talents to steal Drago's Tapelia is actually huge. I'm going to go into more details later on because this actually happened in the Splight matchup, but yeah, whatever. Side deck, triple Sphere Mode, triple Reaper, even more Bisted monsters because clearly 3 wasn't enough. Double Zuking Alpha, this is very specifically for Splight. And then yeah, a lot of cards for Rogue. Not really, actually, not a lot. Yeah, only double Call by the Grave and double Cyclone. The other cards, I mean, Sphere Mode is typically there for, I think, the Mirror Match and Splight, and then Zuking Alpha is only here for Splight, and Reaper is pretty much there for everything, because The deck already plays Splight Elf and Splight Sprint, so might as well cover more ground and also use it against Splight. Alright, now for Splight. So this guy actually went 10-1-1 in a 434 player tournament. And yeah, like I said, he used triple tactic talents to steal the Dragos Tapelia, used it to negate the Lulu Karos, and he technically almost had a chance to win. As you can see from this board, Gigantic Splight, Dragos Tapelia, red and blue. Whereas he had Meru with Kit Kalos, Lulu Karos that is negated because of the Predator counter, and Afinis. So one thing that he could have done was Shadow Mosquito, but unfortunately he milled all 3 jets. So there was no way for him to get the third monster to make the Shadow Mosquito, because that is the way you kill your opponent, by having Shadow Mosquito and 3 other monsters, so that you can attack 3 times on a monster with 2700 attack or more. And 2700 multiplied by 3 is 8100 damage, so you can OTK your opponent even when they have way more resources than you. And that's the important part, because if you can't really keep up with that amount of resources, and you can't really get rid of the board with like something like Zeus, and you have to take care of everything while also making interruptions. It's too much to ask, it's basically impossible. And the graveyard is basically off limits because these Shizu cards will always shuffle back everything, so yeah, don't go thinking that Splight Elf and stuff like that and the frogs can really do much. They really won't do basically anything at all. And yeah, the 3 Splight Elf in the grave is like the worst case. It's so unfortunate, man. As you can see here, like they're all there. it really happens every now and then. And Shadow Mosquito is what you're trying to utilize to win against your opponents when you really cannot keep up with the back and forth interactions. Anyways, for this deck list, back to playing 2 Carrot. Very interesting. No, sorry, that is red. It's so confusing because red is orange and carrot is red. It's what the hell. Anyways, double red, 1 carrot, 1 pixies. This is basically staple in the OCG. Like, it's in the TCG, nobody plays this. For some reason, I would play it. I think it's really good. But over there, it's everyone's playing it. Yeah, 1 Nimble Angler, double Swap Frog, 1 Dew Frog, triple Beaver, and then the 3 Bisted Monsters, the exact same as this player right there in Tier Laments because they're just good. Like the Magnamid was search the Druid Worm on the end phase and stuff like that, and this would send a monster, so you just break boards like there is no tomorrow. And then Xatri Fenrir, 8 hand traps, which is also standard. Everyone's on exactly 8 hand traps for some reason. I don't know why. Only 1 Prosperity, even though you can play 2. And then the rest is not really worth covering. For the extra deck, though, Underworld Goddess, so you don't lose to bullshit. IP Masquerna with Appaloosa, double Gigantic Splight, only double Elf. I don't know, man. I'd like to play 3. Sky Cavalry Centauria makes no sense to play because Shadow Mosquito cannot be destroyed by battles. So this is basically better than Sky Cavalry. Everyone's playing this card, man. Yeah, don't sleep on number 2 Ninja Shadow Mosquito. It is coming out in Darkwing Blast, if I recall correctly. Don't quote me on that. Anyways, Obni Maru, the Soul Sweeper. This is nice with Nibiru because you banish the token that you give to your opponent. 1 Kit Kalos because of Ghost Reaper in the side deck. And then the rest of the side deck, D-Shifter, because you only really cut yourself off from like the Nimble Angler play and Swap Frog, but the rest of your deck is basically just utilizable. A Pointer of the Red Lotus for going first. This is one of the few decks that can really achieve afford this luxury. The trap card that pretty much steals a monster upon controls, it's searchable, so if you already had a Smashers and a starter, then you might as well search this for like a extra way of interrupting your opponent. And yeah, double Lightning Storm, Regeki. No Underworld Link 2 monster. Very interesting. So this guy doesn't care about Regeki. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So 40% more is Tier Laments, and then Splight that second spot anywhere between 17 to 27%. But the third spot keeps rotating between a bunch of decks. And even if the third deck is still relatively good, it's still literally just irrelevant against these Shizu and Splight. It's not like the old formats where we had like 7 decks that were basically just all equal. The 2 best decks are Tier Laments and Splight by a landslide, dominating like freaking 70-ish% of the field. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this OCG metagame breakdown. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.